All right, so the idea would be, if I understand you correctly, that you are essentially being told and believe that if you went to visit your relatives and people not in the church, that you would end up being possessed by evil spirits?
No, not necessarily being possessed, but persons would have tried to hurt me.
Okay.
Now, regarding that video that clip that you just saw, I'm going to read something yet again from the book Stolen Mind, Understanding Cults. But before I do, you'll notice a change in clothes. This video is actually a video that is re-uploaded, right? And this section of the video, I realized that something went wrong and the video spoiled, right? And so as a result of that, I had to cut out that part of the video. For some reason, there is no sound on it. So I had to cut out that part and then do back a video and then merge it with the first 35 minutes, right? That is okay. From beyond that, it was saying it was giving no sound. So what I do is that the little part that is giving trouble, cut it out, right? And then I do a video now to add in back in that, and then I'll merge the video. So that is why you see me in this outfit. I swear, guys, that this man must have some evil powers working with him, because this video gave me so much trouble to actually put together, and then even after I put it together, I actually lose a night rest, right? Because by doing this 1 hour video, right? It took a lot out of me. It took a lot to prepare and to actually do, right? Before I even read from the link that I have, I'm going to advise you guys to read up on Jim Jones, right? Read up on Jim Jones. I know in the initial stage I should have stated who is Jim Jones and how the man in question is very much like Jim Jones. By the time you would have listened to what happened prior to now, what I spoke about prior to now, and what you will hear coming after in the video and in subsequent video, you'll see that this man is exactly like Jim Jones. And had police did not intervene, right, when he was about to sacrifice those persons, then he would no doubt go down as a rival then to Jim Jones, right, guys? But with that being said, regarding the clip that I show you, I'm going to read something again from the book so that you will understand that everything that you see this man exhibited, it is what cultists oftentimes do. It's not nothing strange. But most persons, the reason why persons end up get sucked in cults is because most persons don't know what a cult is. They don't understand how cults operate, because if they did, the members would have known from the get-go that they're in a cult, right? And this is why I stress myself to put out this video, to use him as an example so that you guys can see and understand just what a cult is. You can know from the get-go, right? When you see a group started to say certain kind of things and they do certain kind of things, then you know that it is definitely a cult. Whether it be a group or an individual, right? Because it can just be a one person thing. You know that one person is a cult leader then, so to speak, right? So with that being said, regarding the clip, here is what the writer for Stolen Mind, Understanding Cults has to say. The use of guilt, shame and fear to promote conformity to the group. Personal independence is discouraged and most certainly not respected. The outside world is the mean and the cult's critics are demonized, right? Earlier on you'd have heard him talk about that if you mention any problem to any church member, they will basically reject you, and if you basically leave the church, then the church members will write you off. You will be public enemy number 1, right? You'll be public enemy number 1, right? Simply because you step outside of the quote-unquote the faith then, so to speak. Because remember now, the outside world is the mean, right? You cannot find any joy, peace or happiness in the outside world. So once you leave from the group, you're basically deemed as an apostate then, so to speak. That is what they call persons who leave their group, apostates, right? And they use fear, shame, and guilt to basically keep persons inside. Here's how they use guilt. You would have heard that the man basically early in the video that the man, he assisted them financially to a great degree. One of the things that cults doing is that in the early part, you know, they are going to do a lot for you, you know, right? And you see, because they do a lot for you, they know then if they use it as a means to manipulate you, make you feel ungrateful. If you want to oppose them or to leave them, you're going to feel a sense of obligation then to be a part of them. It happens to the best of us, you know. I remember me leaving out of a church that I was once a part of. I stated it in a video titled Church Hurt. Because the group did so much for me personally in bringing me to Christ, it was hard for me to decide in myself that I'm going to join another group. And this is not say that they put anything in me to make me feel guilty to be a part of them, you know, not to be a part of them. It is something solely by my own self and not them guilt tripping me. Because the human nature, you know, we tend to want to reciprocate and so forth, you know. The human nature, when someone do something for you, you're going to feel like you owe them and you're obligated to be loyal to them. And so this is how they use guilt to basically keep them in, and they use shame also. But regarding shame, I'm going to do a separate video, right, where I talk about the shame aspect, right, of how cults use to control people. And you would have heard him mention about the fear part, that basically if you join another faith, then you're basically going to die. Then if you leave and go elsewhere, you're going to die. Right? And you would say demons, when you look, you see demons speaking out a person, telling persons that, hey, if you go around there, you're going to die and all sorts of stuff. This is just one of the methods in which they use fear, you know, to control persons. You have some groups, they are more subtle than that, in how they use fear to control person. But I'm going to talk more about that in separate videos, right? But let me continue. So they say the outside world is the mean and the cult's critics are demonized. Right? You hear him mention about them not wanting him to be a part of his family and so forth. Them trying to separate them from the family. And one of the reasons being is that sometimes family members may realize that you're in something that is not good and they're trying to talk you out to leave from out of that. What cults will often try to do is to tell you that to separate you from your family so that your family can fill your head with things and tell you the dirt that is behind the group or movement, right? So this is why they tend to demonize then persons who criticize their group. An elitist us versus them mindset is developed. Mistrust of non-members develops and isolation becomes an inevitable consequence. Some groups will separate members from their friends and family, as I said before. The use of loaded language and thought-stopping cliches serve to change members' thought process and compel them to conform to the group's way of thinking. Isolation from influences and strict management of information keep people under control. Peer pressure within the group coerces members to toe the line. Right? We are going to get back to this very sentence here, you know. Right? For the member who wants to leave or does not conform, the fear of surefire disaster in the outside world becomes a terrifying prospect. The group is the only place where a person can obtain salvation, peace, success, goodness, friendship, and love. Right? You remember the guy mentioned about that if they go X place, or technically if they leave the group, then they're basically going to die then, so to speak. Right? So these are some of the ways. The author ends by saying that, in this chapter, by saying that these extreme tactics are implied in the more totalitarian cults like Kevin Smith's own and Jim Jones. Less destructive cultic groups use more subtle methods that are more difficult to detect. And these subtle methods are things that I'm going to talk about in videos to come. Right, guys? That you'll see that A cult doesn't have to do all the things that Kevin that Kevin Smith did, but yet it will still be ranked as a cult. Right? I'm going to show you all of that in videos to come. But with that being said, I have another video that I want you guys to check out. Right? So check it out.
What led to your having to leave now? How did that come about?
All right. So, me leaving, and for me, I left several occasions, right? I left several occasions. One was because of the family thing, just the same. If I visit my family, I would normally probably just keep it on the down low. Yes, until if he probably asked me, I would say. Secondly, it was due to as well. I was pursuing someone at the church, right? I was pursuing a young lady at the church, and he was against it, and for whatever reason, I don't know. You understand? But I didn't want to listen, right? So I was just, being patient, doing what a male would have done to basically court a young lady, so to speak. And what else? Yeah, how would I say this now? I got tired in one sense. There was an occasion where I was being hit with an hose, yes, and not just me, but some of the other young men there as well.
Who was hitting you?
Understand?
Who was hitting you?
Him.
Was that something that happened regularly?
In most cases. So, for example, if he claims that you're lying to him, he would have hit you.
Okay. How severe would these hittings be?
All right, very severe. We're talking about a hose. No, the hose that is behind a washing machine, so to speak. Right? Yeah, a hose behind a washing machine. I've had an experience where, he thought I was telling him some form of lie, and I wasn't. But he hit me with the hose. My hands, was black and blue. My foot, black and blue, and yeah, and things like those were what triggered me to actually leave from the church.
Guys, and there is something else that I'm going to say regarding that clip. In the section titled "The Harm That Cults Can Cause," some of the things that the writer mentioned is that physical and sexual abuse in the group, those are things that happen in cults. Loss of free will, loss of controls over one's life, right? I'm just listing out the things that apply to this group, what we see from this group, right? Being used as a slave by the cult, financial loss and suffering, huge amount of times given to the group, right? Difficulty trusting others and developing intimate relationships. That's also a factor, because you hear from one of the victims that says that he will never find himself trusting any member of clergy, any pastor, any prophet, or anything like that. He still believes in God and will go to church, but it's going to be hard for him to trust anyone. So you see that cults, guys, is not something that is to be taken lightly. I cannot stress it enough in just one video, right? How dangerous cults are. And cults doesn't have to be religious alone, right? As a matter of fact, the author lists out plenty of cults, right? That is not only religious. There's also political cult, commercial marketing cults. I'm not going to call out the names of any, but I came across several of them in Jamaica that tends to have like pyramid scheme. They tell you all kind of things and make it so colorful about all the things that you're going to receive when you join their group and market their stuff, and when you check a stock and you go into the group, it's not what it appears to be. Right? So you even have marketing cults and so forth. This is what the author points out. You can check out my video called 101, the cultic landscape, and I will explain. You will see more explained in that video. Then you have psychotherapeutic cults, new age cults, satanic cults, and one-on-one cultic relationships. Go and check out the video called 101, the cultic landscape. I am not going to read out everything in detail for the purpose of this video. But don't think for a second that cults only has to do with religion alone. There are cults that is not religious in order, but it is a cult nonetheless. Right? Based on their practices and how they go about doing things, makes it a cult nonetheless. Right, guys? Now, I'm going to put in the comment section, because I want to keep this video as short as possible. I'm going to put in the comment section links for you guys to go and check out, that will basically tell you a few more about this cult that is discovered in Mumbai. One of the things that I must say is that several of these members were treated very badly, right? Who were basically in the cult. They were exploited to very great degrees, right? Even were told that their very first paycheck, right, has to be given to the pastor. Their first paycheck has to be given to the pastor, and the pastor go through a lens, quoting Bible, and try to use the Bible to justify it by calling it the first fruit. Right now, this is a biblical term, and of course the pastor redefined that scripture. Right? I spoke about redefinition. He redefined it because first fruit is not what many church people actually think it is. Right? I'll have to do a video where I talk about first fruit to show you that the pastor really manipulated them by using this quote-unquote first fruit argument and make it a mandatory thing, right, to get them to give their very first paycheck. Right? Another factor, right, is that they were oftentimes shamed in the cult. Right? Whenever they confide in the pastor about any sexual mishaps and so forth, the pastor will go and confess it publicly in the church in order to shame them then, so to speak. Right? And this is one of the things that I pointed out, that fear, guilt, and shame are things that cults oftentimes use to manipulate their members and to keep them in the church. I'm not going to read it out to you. I'll put the links in the comment section for you guys to read it for yourself, right? And one of the things that they basically spoke about is that he saw basically members, they would hear like demons speaking from out of them and saying all kind of stuff. But little do they know that these could possibly be accomplices of his in the church, who basically act as though they're demon possessed and that demons are actually speaking through them. This is a regular tactic from cults. They have their accomplice that basically work together with them. So when you think that demon is actually working through them, it's actually an act. And when you think that they're actually healing persons and so forth, right? These persons are not really being healed. They're not really being healed, you know. What happens is that they have their accomplice pretend that they are actually sick, right? And then the pastor will then touch them and then say, oh, they miraculously start to walk. They were crippled and then suddenly they start to walk. But they were never crippled in the first place. And this is what people get tricked and fall for this sham ever so often. But has it ever dawned on them that if they have such a gift, why don't they go to hospitals and so forth and heal persons that are sick? Why those persons have to come to the church? It is because that they can't go to hospitals and pull off a sham like that, because the persons in the clinic and so forth will not allow it, because they will be at risk for losing their job. So they can't work, they can't get accomplice at hospital to basically pull off a sham like that. And so this is why they don't go to hospital and try to do these things. You have to come to them, because in reality, they don't have the gift of healing. Right? So yes, they say seeing is believing, and they use this type of sham in order to get them to believe in them. And once they start to believe in them, they will not want to question certain strange things that they see happening. Right? Their minds will be blind to other things, because why? They now have faith in their leaders. And this is what Kevin Smith basically employ in order to consolidate loyalty, right, and not to let his actions be questioned by anyone. This is how he caused them to basically have faith in them. Right? Now I chose to point out several of these things to you. Another factor is that nudity was basically practiced in the church. I'm not going to even get there, right? But I'll post the links in the comment section for you guys to basically read. What more can I say? What more can I say? I'll end by saying that it is basically said, or that I don't even remember the date, but I'll post a link in the comment section, that the pastor met in an accident while they were traveling him. They were moving him from one parish to the next, right? And basically what the news was saying is that they don't trust to basically keep him and to try him in that parish, because this man has too many links and too many connections. So they want to ensure that he gets a fair trial, and so to speak, and that it's not under bias. This is what they basically say. And so they were moving him, right, from that parish to a next. And while moving him from one parish to a next, the vehicle that was traveling with him met in an accident, and the pastor died along with a police who was basically taking him to the other parish, and two others was basically injured. Now there are many things are being said, right, that it is a very spooky accident. I will not get into that because Jamaicans know all about all these things, right? But for my non-Jamaican audience, I will post all the links in the comment section for you guys to basically check it out. This channel is not a political channel, so I won't give my opinion on his death and so forth. Many are saying, wondering if he's really dead or not, but the news confirmed that he's basically dead, and I will not get into the conspiracies and so forth, because my channel is not for that. But I use this video, or I chose to talk about this for you guys to understand the mechanisms of cults, and that you shouldn't think in yourself that it has to lead up to sacrifices and so forth in order for the group to be considered a cult. No. The author of this book makes it plain that there are many more cults that are more subtle than that. They take the lives of persons, but they are just as dangerous, right? They are just as dangerous. And if you should really judge many churches that you see now, right, judge them by the marks. There are certain marks, you know, of a cult that you all can look out for. I tell you, check out my video, Cult 101. But if you watch all of it, you'll understand everything you need to know about cults. But I'm going to do a video, right, sometime, if not this week, next week, that will basically help you to understand how you can know when a church is a cult, and how you can know if you are actually in a cult, right? You can look out for that video to come. With that being said, I hope that you all learn something from this video, and that you learn something from the Kevin Smith saga, that we as Christians has to reach a place where we hold persons accountable, not only for their religious practices, but also for the things that they basically teach. We need to reach a place where we hold them accountable, because we want to ensure that the church is a healthy place for persons to actually worship. And if church leaders are not held accountable for the things that they have, that they pen, right, in what they teach and what they practice, as well as their fundamental and core beliefs, then we are going to always have cults popping up. And there are several persons, there are several cults out there now. It's just that they haven't been exposed as yet. And they have not broken the law. And because they have not broken the law, this is why, right, they haven't came under the radar as yet. Because no one is exposing them and they haven't broken the law for them to get exposed. Right? Just to let you guys know, or to further punch home the point, I'm going to share a clip with you about another cult that was discovered in, I think it's in the same Mobile last year. There wasn't any lives lost, but the group is a cult nonetheless. I'm trying to remember if I had done a video where I talk about that cult. I believe that I did, but I can't seem to remember which one of my videos I spoke about the cult. If I do remember, by the time I remember, I'll put the name of the video on the screen for you guys to check out. But I'm going to share this clip with you for my Jamaican persons who are watching this, for you guys to remember, right, that there was a cult that came out in Mobile before this one. But the reason why this one exploded to this degree, it is because it cost persons' life. And I'm going to share it with you guys, right, for you guys to check out. With that being said, have a look at it.
Gates heavily padlocked, and the police trying to negotiate with the operators of this church, Yahweh Nissi, who have now broken out in song. They have been here for hours, acting on received reports that several girls are being held against their will and have been prevented from making contact with anyone outside the establishment. Armed with this information, they arrived at the church asking the operators to let them in, but they refused. The police had no other choice but to take action. On the compound, several girls were seen dressed in white and blue loose-fitting garments, the men in khaki pants and blue shirts, chanting Yahweh Nissi. When the police tried to intervene, this happened. Eventually, they were able to rescue 3 girls from the building, hoping to return for others. Sources tell CVM Live that 3 other girls were rescued some time ago, and residents are raising concerns about the living conditions of those who live in the tents on the compound. There are reports that some girls have been abused.
Beat them or so, and let them marry to the elder ones in the church.
CVM Live has also received reports that many of the girls are children of those who have joined the church. The girls allegedly attend school at the church and are married to male members at age 16.
She is pregnant! She is pregnant! Pregnant! She is over 38 years old, pregnant! And this is what they are doing!
The operators say they have done nothing wrong.
We truly believe that we have been treated unfairly by the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Child Development Agency, and as a result, today, as they have come again, trying to take more of our children, we have decided to take a stand.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
And this is just a reminder. It's just a reminder for you all. Right, guys? It's just a reminder, nothing more. But guys, we don't want to wait until they reach to the degree of that clip where I show you just now, and we don't want to wait until it costs a person's life. Right? Let us be proactive, right, in combating cults, because once we take we start to become proactive, then persons who want to form cult, they won't be inclined to start one, because they know that it will not be easy, right, to actually get away with it. Let us start being police then, so to speak, as Christians, because we can't depend, right, on the law to actually do it. Let us be police ourselves and stand for truth, right? When we realize that certain things are happening, that certain groups that say that they are Christians and yet still They practice cultic practices, right? And not only that, they teach teachings that is on the wavelength of a cult, right? Teachings that are not inspired by the Holy Spirit but are inspired by Satan. Teachings that are not biblical, teachings which are used to either deceive, manipulate, and exploit people. Let us be police and not be afraid to actually expose them. Right? This is what All Things Religious is about, and this is what I have been doing since I started this ministry, and this is what I intend to continue to do. Right? In videos to come, I believe I mentioned Jehovah's Witness. I'm going to show you how the Jehovah's Witness Church has many similarities, right, with the Kevin Smith cult. I'm going to show you as well how even the Seventh-day Adventist Church have many similarities with the Kevin Smith cult. And I'm going to show you other persons who basically say they are quote-unquote Christian leaders and so forth, and show you how they have many similarities to the Kevin Smith cults, and to basically show you that they exhibit actions that will make them look like a cult leader, then, so to speak. With that being said, I end this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Bye bye now.